Mr. Mandar Bhatavdekar. Mr. Mandar has a rich 32 plus years of experience and is currently the global head of data and analytics service practice in TCS. His focus areas include driving business strategy and elevating the brand TCS in data, analytics and AI world by bringing in-thought leadership and customer mindshare. With a rich multidisciplinary experience within TCS, from services to products and sales to delivery across diverse industries, he is able to bring in TCS diverse values to customers. He is certified enterprise architect and has led many complex and transformational engagements. On the personal front, he loves music and poetry. He is a friendly face for most people who have been associated with him. I now request Dr. Rajeshwari, our plenary chair, to kindly come forward and present a sapling to Mr. Mandar. Thank you, Dr. Rajeshwari, for that warm gesture. And now I would like to invite Mr. Mandar to begin the session on power of data storytelling. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you. So first of all, my sincere apologies to everybody who wanted to leave but have been forced to be back. Okay. So, so on one side, my apologies for that. On the other side, I just hope at the end you will feel it wasn't so bad. It was worth enough probably to stay back. I'm just hoping. And for those who, for whatever reason, were sitting and did not try to go out, my hope is that your hope is well maintained. So I'll just go with that and I'll continue. Well, anyway, as a kid, I always like to listen to stories, and in fact, even today, if you ask me, I like to listen to stories. And the best way to convince anybody to tell give really what is important to why and how, is to do by storytelling and create that impact. That's the best way to explain to anybody, right? That's what I thought I will just cover. By the way, whatever I'm going to say today, and in fact, I should appreciate Dr. Bhaskar because whatever you said was storytelling, right? I mean, he just so nicely explained to us why social media is a whatever bane or boon, whatever it is, why it is like that, and with real examples, with questions, how he engaged you all. So that is the right way of storytelling. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. What I am going to do little differently is I'm going to take little different stories. Some of them you may know, but you haven't looked at it that way. Some of them, the idea is to show you what are the different ways of telling the story. But at the end of the day, it's all about telling the story, but the slight difference is telling the story with data, which makes it much more worthy listening to and is reliable also. That's why I'm talking about the power of data storytelling. So let me get started on this. I hope this works. Yeah. So again, like I said, I am also going to use some of his techniques. So my first question, I'm not going to ask you. All I'm going to tell you is just you look at this question and you tell me whether the answer that I will tell you is the same as what you have said. So do you know who was a person who donated the most back to the society all time till date? And you know the names. These are all popular names. I hope most of you would know these names. Rockefeller, Bill and Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett, Jamshedji Tata, George Soros, right? I'm sure you would have heard these names multiple times. I'll tell you the answer. All I want you to do is just register whether your answer was right or wrong. So needless to say, and the reason why I'm putting it up here is also, it was Jamshedji Tata was the answer. No surprises there, but the reason why I put it up here is the number that you see at the top is 102. Is whatever has been donated by him at that time still stands today at this as a topmost rate. But more importantly, what I want to tell you is, even today, the Tata Sons, the 66% of the equity of Tata Sons goes to Tata Trust, which essentially means whatever Tata Sons earns, 66% of it actually goes into charity. And that's huge. Believe me, when you're talking of a few lakh crores, and within that 66% going into charity is a big deal. And believe me, it's all real. What are the other, if you look at the other names, if you leave out Warren Buffett and replace it probably with Ford, what do? Where does their money go into when you talk of charity? I don't have to tell that, but I'll just leave some few words for you. If you know these words at all, you can Google them or you can find out what those mean. If you know what are these words, deep state, wokeism, if these words mean anything to you in geopolitics, then you will understand what I'm saying about. But Tata Sons does donate in the real charity in India. Students of which ethnicity have the highest graduation in the US? I'm not talking globally or in India, I'm talking in the US. If you see whether it's the whites, Hispanics, Asians, students of all other color, means blacks and others, and even the native Indian American Indians, if you think who are the most people getting educated in the US, and believe me, it's all maximum number is Asians. Again, this may be a little bit of surprise to you, but it is true. But again, more importantly, in the US today, the overall what they call as student debt in America is of the order of $1.7 trillion. See the amount of money that the students are taking loans. First of all, it's only 64% whites, and if you look at the other students for other color, that still makes it higher. But overall loans is of the order of $1.74 billion. But what is the same in India? It's less than $2 billion. That's the kind of difference we are talking about, right? Good or bad, it's up to us to decide. Third important one, I don't know, do you all know Las Vegas? Have you heard of Las Vegas? Yes. So, if I ask you a question, how much power does Las Vegas consume in one night or in 1 year, whichever time frame you choose? If you compare that, the number of villages in the whole of Africa, how many villages is that equivalent to? How much that would be? How many villages that's in Africa that annual power consumption of Las Vegas can light up? If you see the options 10K to 1000K, the answer is a whopping 800,000, which means 8 lakh villages. So whatever Las Vegas consumes as power in one night, let's take as just one night as an example, is equivalent to what 871,000 villages consume in one night. Isn't it humongous? Isn't this too outrageous to see that this is what is one? What is all that money for? What does Las Vegas consume power for? Casinos. And what does Africa consume it for? Livelihood. If you look at the gold reserves of various countries today, and if you just order the gold reserves of the country, the official gold reserves of the nation, and if you try to rank them in the order of the gold reserves, these countries, there are many countries, but I've just taken some 5 of them. If you just order them in their gold reserves officially, these are the top ones. The United States would stand at the top, 8,000 metric tons of gold as part of their. Remember, gold reserves are required for the currency to be validated in what it stands in the market. Okay, so that's important. Gold reserves is important for every country. So United States tops it with 8,000 plus metric tons, Germany with 3,300 and so on. And India ranks somewhere 9th, about 841 metric tons of gold reserves today, official gold reserves that we have today. But you know what? If you total all the gold that is there in the Indian households and the temple institutions that we have today, it is to the order of 25,000 metric tons, which is total of all countries put together. And none of those countries have any households containing any gold with them. Even if it will turn out to be some 0.5% of their national gold reserves. whereas ours is 10 times, 300 times the gold reserve. So if we decide as a country to really put all countries on the mat with our rupee becoming global, with our UPay becoming global platform transaction, we can do it if we want to. But we choose to let private property gold be private. The government does not want to nationalize it. That's the power we carry with us, but we will use it only when it is required. We will not use it today. So these are the stories that we should know, and this is what all about data. Again, I'm not talking of anything that I am creating anything out of it. This is all formal data, government sources data. So this is, I just use these questions, and again, like I told you, right, I didn't ask you to answer to me, but I'm just telling you, if you have noted your answers, what you, for each of these, and if all your answers are correct, how many of you got all the answers correct? Well, hardly any. How many of you got at least 2 out of the 4 correct? Well, that's a good number actually. Whenever I've asked these questions earlier, the answer would typically be 1 out of 4 or 0 out of 4. So 2 out of 4 is a good number, it's a good crowd. I mean, you guys are really reading a lot, it seems. But now what I want to do is I want to take a few minutes of yours to run through certain stories. And I'm telling you these stories in different ways. And again, believe me, none of these requires any knowledge of anything. You just have to look at it, probably listen to me for a few commentaries on top of what you see. That's about it. And it doesn't need any great knowledge for you to consume this. But the reason for me to tell you this is a way of telling stories to people with data, right? The first one being India's odyssey, right? From the ancient prosperity to about where we are today with the resurgence of the economy that we are into. If somebody asks you, okay, if anybody asks me, can you tell history of India of last 2000 years in 5 minutes? Just tell me the history of India in just 5 minutes. What can I do? Right? And with data, and I can't just say, oh, we have been a great nation, so much of richness we had, now we are almost not so great, but we are going to be great, and all that stuff. I mean, I can keep telling stories, but if I would tell story with data for 2000 years, then this is how it goes. I'll just play it for you. Just observe. Wish I could, I'll probably pause it at times where I can. I'll just pause it here. So what it is showing is, it started at something around 1600 BC if I'm not wrong. And there were a lot of Janpads in India. And there were 16 Mahajanpads. And what is a Janpad? Nothing but a republic as we stand today. So the people who, when we say India is a mother of democracy, this is what it means. It's actually fact. These are where the Janpads that are, and these are the Mahajanpads only. The Janpads, there are many. And it was largely shown in the Mahajanpads were largely seen in the North India, but there were many Janpads across the country. But the fact is, these are all Janpads. They are actual republics. Before many dynasties, many empires came into being. So this is roughly around until 600 BC. A lot of Janpads existed, but the story continues. So many empires, dynasties, I've just speeded it up, okay? This real video, by the way, is done by Oli Bai, who's a compilation of a lot of his data collated by multiple historians, including our own Indian historians, okay, like Vikram Sampath and many others who have done that. And in fact, these days you would see a lot of videos, small YouTube videos by young historians also. But a lot of data has been compiled and it has been put together as a one contiguous video here. But what you see here right now is how the grasp of the Mauryan Empire over what is termed as Akhanda Bharat. Right? It was actually taking the entire Bharat. This is what entire Bharat was. The Cholas also came a little later. I just paused probably a couple of seconds later, but you would have seen even a part of those under that. So entire, it is Akhanda Bharat, right? It goes up to Iran. It is not just up to the Kashmir and the Pakistan border, right? It's right, goes up to Iran. That's the whole empire that has gone, the reach of the empire. And what you see on the right side is our overall GDP at that time. Again, probably there were not many records found before that. This is the oldest record found from a GDP contribution of India to the world, is somewhere around 34%. Right? That's one measure of telling that how rich we were at that point in time. So I'll just continue this. Multiple dynasties keep coming in. How people from outside kept coming in, whether it was the Greek or the Hunas or the Shakas. So many people just kept coming in. But one of the messages that there was that even for the people who came from outside or within, see, if you see, no one dynasty just took over from another dynasty, or one empire took over from the another empire. It was always a large kingdom to be broken into smaller areas where you just raise uprising, just create protests, break that part out of the whole larger empire, create a new dynasty over there. The philosophy has always been, so we think it is the British who brought it, divide and rule. That's not true. It's historically, it's always like that. You don't try to overtake an empire. You just break it into pieces first. Just take over from small areas. Automatically everybody spreads out. And then once everything is spread out, then you get in and try to take over the whole thing. That's how it has been, and it is even happening today. Tukde as they call it. Just look at how it is being done. Protests in different areas, try to do some attacks, some small terror attack happening somewhere. So you just try to break things into small pieces, divert attention, and then take it over. Rather than just say, okay, from tomorrow we want to take over your country. That doesn't happen. It never happened before also. Very few times it would happen, but most of the times it's always first break, then take over. I'll just let it continue. You may want to watch the overall thing, how things have been moved on. Press this thing, but I made that mistake, but let me just. Yeah, I'll just continue from there. How it has been taken over. It's important to see this. So this is how Mughal Empire finally started taking over from various different dynasties. By that time, the global GDP has already dropped down to 24%, right? This is what continued to happen. This is another data point. Like if you see, before British came in, it had started in East India Company had started in Bengal. I just again pressed a little late. But if you see the British Empire, the Maratha Empire have almost taken over the entire nation, and that's when the British came in. And again, the same principle. Don't try to take it one shot. Break it up into pieces and take it. That's the way they went about it. Again, by the time British took it over, it was somewhere around this area. But then it was fast. How it just British took over the entire area. Now what is important to see is this whole journey, how it started from the Janpads to multiple large empires taking over, like the Mauryan Empire, the Gupta Empire, the Chalukya, the Chola, all that happened. It was still a rich country. Once the invasion started happening somewhere around 1200, that's when the whole deterioration started happening, and it was very consciously done. Money was looted, and the worst looting, when was the worst looting happened, then you will see it here. If you see from a GDP contribution perspective as a percentage of the global GDP, from 34% as it was somewhere around until Mughals, it was 24%. When Maratha Empire was at its peak, it was around 22.55%, but before they could take it above, it was all killed. And where you see the drop from around early 1800s or maybe 1820s, to 1947. In 1947, when British went back, our GDP contribution to the world was just 3.9%. What does that signify? Again, it is a story of its own. How India had sponsored their industrial revolution. How British took money from India to sponsor many of their large requirements. And a lot of the money is probably still there somewhere, which is taken in different forms, which I will, again, as I said, I mentioned the name Deep State, but I will not dwell on that, too much on that, but a lot of money. So if I tell you the exact number, I mean, you may want to watch this video, this speech by Shashi Tharoor in the British thing. He had actually shown, and he had shown all these, talked about all these numbers. So he actually has said that $45 trillion has been looted. If you look at that money that has been looted from India, and if you look at it from today's terms, it is $45 trillion. Do you understand what is $45 trillion? Today, if you look at India's budget, it's 45 trillion rupees. Today's India's full budget, it's 45 trillion rupees. And if you divide it by 84, which is like a $500 billion, is that amount of money has gone out of the country. So no wonder, right? The GDP percentage dropped from 22.5 to less than 4%. Anyway, so that's the first story I thought I will tell you. I want you to take away from this is what really, how it happens. If you want to really narrate a story as to how it really happened, you need to have such kind of storytelling mechanisms to tell. Very important. The second story is about a decade of digital identity. Do you know that we have always had a huge percentage of people below poverty line and so on and so forth. A lot of accounts were opened somewhere in the beginning of 2010 and after that. If you see the jump from 2011 to 2017, just in 6 years, the number of accounts, almost 60 crore people actually could open accounts in this. Today it is already 90+%, but if you see the growth that has happened and the whole cost of onboarding, this is very important. With a lot of privatization, with a lot of banks coming up, the cost of customer onboarding or opening accounts has gone down from 1,800 rupees for the banks to just mere 40%. This is one big number, and I'll tell you why I'm talking about this. Just note that this is what has happened over a period of time. About close to 30 million fake or possibly even duplicate ration cards have been eliminated, and that has saved about more than $9 billion for the country. Okay, in the same period that I'm talking about. We have saved about $11 billion by just reducing frauds, increase the efficiency, people throwing away the money in between. Remember the famous statement that when the government gives 100 rupees, just 15 rupees reaches the individual. So that whole thing has been now slowly increasing, and this is all thanks to what? One of the biggest things that has happened for us is Aadhaar. Now obviously one would know, okay, how can this be Aadhaar? Aadhaar is just a identifier, right? It's just my identity. Aadhaar card is my identity, right? How can that be? But reality is, this identification has been used by a huge number of applications, close to about 300 schemes today, or more than that, are actually using an underlying Aadhaar for identification. It is significantly fast. In fact, the biggest story you would have probably heard in media is this Geo story, where so many millions of accounts were opened in a month. SIM cards were sold in a month. There are multiple different marketing gimmicks that they might have used, but the underlying value story was Aadhaar's authentication. They didn't have to have so many papers, just one Aadhaar API call and that's done, period. You get the SIM card. So what does that mean in terms of volume is 70 million authentications happen daily and more than 30 billion authentications in a year, that too at a whopping 99.7% accuracy, or the success at the very first attempt. So believe me, this is a big story, isn't it? The Aadhaar story, I don't know how many of you have, you all know Aadhaar, I'm sure all of you have an Aadhaar card, but did you know this story? What Aadhaar has really, how it has really revolutionized what India has been doing? Let me just extend that further to the digital revolution. See this chart again. I'm sure you would have seen this, how the economies have been ranked. So India was ranked 11th globally in 2012, and it's expected to be third ranking in 2030. Today it is fifth already. And I'm sure you would have been hearing about this, that in 2-3 years time we should reach third in 2030, not third in the globally, not necessarily wait till 2030. But the fact remains again that significant jump has been, again I'm giving a lot of stories which are India centric very intentionally, because all of us should be proud of what we have achieved and what we are achieving today also. And regardless of which government, regardless of which party, all those doesn't matter. It's just what matters is as a country, how are we doing today, right? Dr. Bhaskar also talked about it a lot. He talked about brain drain and also in a different form, not in the standard brain drain. But I'm just saying that how we all have really are capable of stopping that brain drain in the other sense, not in the sense that you mentioned. But we are able to stop that. So these are what we have really created. Okay, what does that mean again? Let me tell you. I don't know how many of you have. If you have not heard Prime Minister Modi's speech last year in the US Senate, how he had actually narrated the story of growth of India, how we have done today. I'm just reusing the same things here, okay? I'm not creating anything of my own, but just see the impact, what it does. So I just talked about so many 35 billion authentications done in a year, so on and so forth. But what it really means and how does it really make a difference to you when somebody hears that? And why it was impactful is this. About 850 plus million phones and internet users are there, which is more than a population of Europe. Understand that? Just the number of internet users that we have grown to, the number of inclusive initiatives that we have taken, or the drives that India has taken in the last 3 years, is equivalent to what the entire North America, which is in America, Canada included, is there. Medical programs, the kind of reach that we have had to the people, as I said, even below poverty line, through our various national health programs, it is of the size of South America. The number of UPI transactions, I know all of you use UPI day to day, right? I mean, we use it even at a Bhajiwala, right? So how many UPI transactions that we do today is this in just 1 month is the size of the entire Africa. That's what we are talking about. And then number of homes that were provided thanks to all these digital revolutions, thanks to multiple initiatives that government could do through in terms of disbursements of loans. It is by the 6 times the size of Australia. See the volume that we are talking about, and hence what is happening today is out of every 100 digital transactions that are happening, real payments that are happening, 46 out of them are happening in India. Can you believe this? 46 out of 100 transactions are happening in India. This is the power that we are actually gaining today. Why are we all here they say that Prime Minister Modi is going all around and talking about why? What is that power? The power is this, that we are the market and we are the place where all different companies in the world can really gain by being in this market. Just see this, if 46 out of 100 transactions are happening only in India, where is the power? Where is the purchasing power? Are we a superpower yet? The answer is no, right? Are we a superpower? But yet, we are the highest in terms of digital payments. So what is a natural way of gaining superpower? When somebody who does transactions, right, who does payments, who has the buying power is going to become the bigger superpower. That's what it says. So I just want to reiterate that this is the impact that we are creating. And for this entire thing, the underlying India stack has been the Aadhaar. I already talked about. I didn't go to the other things, the core banking payment systems, the UPI, the DigiLocker, and some 400,000 miles cables that have been laid out in the last few years. This is what has caused the whole digital revolution. Yes, talked about a lot of history, talked about how we have become kind of a power that we can have in the purchasing power that I have talked about. Where are we going now? We all are looking at Gen AI, right? All of you. How many of you are into Gen AI in some ways or other? Or at least using it, if not working in it or building anything in it? I'm sure some of you. How many of you are actually using ChatGPT for anything? See? So that's good. That's what it is all about. I mean, you mentioned about social media. ChatGPT is what something everybody is using today. They can't stop using it for every small thing. These are the photographs. This is a nice painting of a mother and daughter, a photo of a, so it's not painting, a photo of a mother and daughter, a photo of a leopard and a banyan tree that is growing big. These are all AI generated photographs. These are not real photographs. These are not real paintings. So this is where we are going. This is what we use every day, right? Gemini is underneath the Google maps that we have been using for some time. What is using is using real-time streaming data, and what it is using is enabled by AI, so that it can real-time show you. You can plan your path. You can decide which path is the best path to take, what time it is taking, where it is choked, when it is getting choked. Everything is available to you at the fingertips, right? Now this is the power of social media. We talked about it. Some good things are also happening. Can't be only problematic. But I thought I'll just also show you some examples of what it's doing, good or bad. So one good example, the story of a child's photo was available at the age of 5, if I'm wrong, if not wrong, and then AI generated actually photograph of the same child. How would she look at the age of 19? Which is what today the girl would have been. And they have actually found out, and they actually found the girl in China, South China's province, who was abducted 19 years ago. Based on the photograph available then. Again, power of data, that is, how could that be then? Because of the power of data. The whole, it could generate the image of a 19-year-old based on data that is available on facial. By the way, about close to 3,900 kids were found with a success rate of 98% out of the 3,900 when Gen AI was used as a tool for recognize the face recognition. But the flip side is not every time it will be successful to give you. There are biases. What has been proved is, now this is all based on Amazon's this thing. Gen AI is like, it says that it is biased against women, that too of color. The success rate has been high, extremely high on white males, reasonably high on white females, to some extent good on dark males, but on dark females it has been bad. So why? Possibly they don't have enough data, possibly it has been consciously not done right. For whatever reasons, it has not given right results. Okay, that's a problem. The MIT Media Labs are doing research on it, and they say that the error rate is the order of 34.7%, which is just, against that it's just a 0.8 for a man. So that's the problem. So this has to be solved. Finally, there's a big market for this image processing. The fact that even our own DTE exams, all these exams that you gave today as an entrance exam before coming to the engineering college, soon will have facial recognition. It already has biometrics and all that stuff, but it will soon have facial recognition. Nobody can give fake exams. Nobody can substitute people to give those exams. Copilot, you all have heard. Copilots generates code. It has gone to an extent where somebody can specify in Hindi or Telugu and code can be generated, and with a very high level of accuracy. There are debates how great is that great accuracy, but definitely it gives a lot of productivity improvement for sure. But at the same, whether it is used, I mean, these are actually examples of how it has been done. These are taken from, in fact, Satya Nadella a few months ago actually launched it in Hyderabad, right? We have taken screenshot from there. But the flip side, what you see here, this has been a photograph that was that won an award from Sony, but it was the photographer finally admitted that he had actually generated it using Gen AI, and it is actually describing as a haunting and reminiscent of the visual language of the family of 40s. But at the end of the day, it got an award for the photograph, but thankfully he didn't take it. He turned it down because it was generated using DALL-E. business, one of the biggest use today is in the document extraction or document generation. I'm sure you would have seen or heard recent cases where a lot of documents judges and these guys have to go through before they can make a final decision. Huge number of documents with so many different contracts. People can exactly pinpoint what is the problem and figure out what is the right solution to the problem. On the flip side, again, there are multiple lawsuits on these Gen AI firms because a lot of copyrighted information has been plugged into the LLMs that they are consuming for tuning them. So it's not good. Right? They should not be consuming any copyrighted information. But then there are lawsuits filed against them. Again, whether it's Amazon's Claude, Anthropic's Claude, or is it whether it's Chat GPT, all of them are under scanner there. So these are the kind of stories that I thought I will tell you, where you kind of there are different ways to tell the story, and if you can pick up the right story. Finally, what it is that you are trying to do from a storytelling perspective is basically make sure you have a clear purpose, find the right data for the same to be able to convince the story for that particular purpose, design the right visuals, build a good narrative on it so that you can have an impact, and finally act on it. Now finally, why do you do all this? Why do you build the narratives? Why do you create that impact? At the end of the day, to take some decisions, to act on something, right? That is what data storytelling does. Going forward, it's not going to be individuals, this thing, it is going to be collective intelligence, it's going to be multidisciplinary, it's going to be diversity and inclusion included, and then in the crowd you have to do personalization. What is expected from you as an individual in this next frontier? There's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of information sitting there, a lot of knowledge available. With experience, what you try to do is you join the dots, understand how they are related, and finally use your creativity to get an impact and understand what the purpose is, what it is really telling. But then, to be able to do that, you as individuals, you need to be ambiently aware and make sure you practice attention. That is how you will be able to succeed, and thank you very much for your patient listening. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so no questions. Okay.
How do you ensure that your data storytelling maintains integrity and avoids misleading and biased interpretation of data?
No, absolutely. That's a very important question, because that's why my first point was get the right data. Because there is huge information overload, as he also pointed out today. There's a huge information overload sitting there today. You have to pick up the right data for the right context. And the only way to do is look at the authenticity of the sources. Like I said, if you go to YouTube and just look at history of India, you will find hundreds of links which will talk about history of India, and they will have their own perspectives of history of India. Right? Or what are the right ways, or what are the right models for right purpose? You try to ask such a question, you'll get some hundreds of answers. The availability of data is probably not a problem anymore. It is the right data that is the problem. And the only way to look at the authenticity is primarily what source it is in and how it has been sourced. For example, I'll just tell you the recent example, right? Our elections. Almost 100% of exit polls went wrong. Although it was all primary source, primary research, right? It was all interviews of people. I mean, the best is actually the primary research, is the best source of information, but you can't do primary research for everything. What does primary research mean? You actually go find out what it is and get that information, put it into your data. That is primary research. Secondary research means somebody else has done the research, you just take and consume that information. So most of our work is all about consuming secondary research, and that's where the challenge is, because you don't know. If you do the primary research, then that's what is authentic. But then, I'm telling you that even there people fail. elections has been a biggest example of all. And see, one odd person failing is an understandable thing. It's something they did wrong. But if all the pollsters went wrong with their exit polls, means there is something else. The data was not processed in the right way. Probably either the data was not given in the right way by people didn't really answer because they knew that this will be used for something and hence they didn't give the right answers, or it was pure. Because it was all, it is not anonymous, right? It is not data that they will, it is secret, it's not under the secret ballot, right? It's just you ask and somebody tell you the answer. Yes, that's how it is. So, getting the right data is absolutely true, and authenticity of the source and authenticity of the medium in which the data has been collated and compiled. All three are important, not just one. So the doors are getting open, so the movie is soon to be over. Any last question before that? Yeah.
Our data is shared with 300, government agencies, as you said. Then there can be misuse of data, and moreover, our data is not private. Even
No, there is a slight difference. It is not 300 data is being shared with 300 government agencies. 300 government agencies use a real-time API call with Aadhaar to authenticate that person. That is what it is. It is not that all these 300 government initiatives have the same data.
But at the same time, the government agencies can have a, spy on the...
They can always do that. You can't stop what government does officially. Unofficially, whatever people do, you can stop through all different threat attacks that you can understand, or spies that people... There are ways people do it, and our cyber security has huge number of solutions today. Many can solve that, many are still incomplete, I would say, inadequate, if not incorrect, to be able to stop our data going out. That's a problem, yes. That threat is there, but I can tell you that these institutions don't take data, they just authenticate data. But yeah, as he said, right, our social media data is available to everybody in the world. I mean, whatever I'm doing on WhatsApp is available to everybody. In fact, I actually signed that at the upfront, that whatever I'm putting it here. In fact, so many apps ask you, right, whatever, can they look at your phone contacts, and can they take your photographs, can they do it? And we inadvertently say yes and go ahead. We don't even try to say, what if I say no to this? We just inadvertently say yes and go ahead. And so that now that is available. And once you have said yes, it's for the lifetime, until that app is there on your phone. So we are giving out much more data than somebody else trying to take it from us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mandar Bhatavdekar, for the insightful presentation and for answering the audience question so thoughtfully. And thank you to our audience for your engaging questions. Thank you very much, sir, for such an enlightening session on the power of data storytelling. Thank you for sharing your expertise with us today. We look forward to apply these powerful storytelling techniques in our own domain. I would now like to invite Dr. Roshni Raut, ICCUBEA 2024 General Chair, to come forward and present a memento to Mr. Mandar. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. As we come to the